Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Bright Hill Podcast. You can, at least from your end, I think you can sense a bit of enthusiasm from my voice. Yeah, on the last episode, we got love in the sense that a couple of people actually got the book our guest put out. It shows that people don't only listen, people also actively participate in whatever we do here. And we believe so much in the little community that we are building and how, like the extent to which people believe so much in our content. So thank you very much once again. Please just do well to subscribe on YouTube, rate our podcast on Spotify, so that we can drop. We can be doing this back to back every week, so that we have a reason to like come back here and drop episode every week. Of course, I have my amazing co-host with me, Isaac.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hi everyone.
yeah. So and Happy New Year once again. Happy New Year. I
Happy New
know the
Year.
last time we dropped it on the New Year, but we hope that this year is going to bring great and exciting stuff for us. Isaac, like, how did you enter into the new year? Like, what was it like? Where were you for crossover
Well,
and all these things?
I was in church per usual for crossover, dedicating this new year to God. Because I mean,
Were you praying and crying?
well, no, not crying, but I was praying. Maybe not crying, but I was praying. Because a lot of expectations for 2026, lot of plans, lot of arrangements that need to come to pass. There's a timeline for some things, and 2026 might just be the perfect time for those things to happen. So yeah, we need to just dedicate all that to God. I mean,
Yeah,
so
let's
yeah,
just. I mean, yeah, let's just go into it. And what better way to start than talking about something that that was big late last year, but
yeah,
it's likely come not it's not confirmed yet, but it's likely if things go well, it might just come to pass. But we'll talk about it. We're talking about the possible acquisition of Netflix, of Warner Bros. By Netflix, right? Uh,
yeah.
yeah, and also probably its possible effect on even the Nigerian movie industry. I know.
Mm.
You can be like, oh, we talk about legal matters. Of course, there are people that drive this agreement and stuff are definitely lawyers.
Mhm.
And Isaac is more of the movie head, yeah, than even me, you know. But we'll drive into it. We'll talk about, you know, definition of what acquisition is, possible effect it can have on the movie industry, even especially in Nigeria. So I was reading. Uh, I saw what's it called? I was reading a report by CBS, and it says that the deal is valued at a 2.7 billion. Uh, Warner Bros is an industry or a studio that has produced movies such as Harry Potter. As a matter of fact, that's one of my favorite movies ever. Uh, he said it would buy Warner Bros for 27.75 per share dollar, giving the deal an equity value of 72 billion and a total enterprise value of 82.7 billion. The transaction is expected to close in 12 to 18 months. Isaac, I mean, walk us through, how this thing is like really like going and legal effect on it.
Okay, so let me start off by giving a definition for a merger and then for an acquisition. So just like people, companies are seen as legal entities on their own. They are seen as persons in law, although they are seen as artificial persons, but they are persons nonetheless. They can acquire properties, They can sue in their own name. They can borrow money in their own name. They can lend out money in their own name. They can buy things in their own name. And they can also die like people. But there's a process to which a company has to die first and all that. So I wouldn't go into all the nuances of that. But there's also a way a company can, how do I say it, get married or join with another company or totally absorbing another company. So when you talk about a merger, you're talking about two companies coming together in an agreement that we want to form a bigger company. And we have examples of this in Nigeria as well. For example, Access Bank and Diamond Bank was a merger. If you some companies may decide, okay, after this merger we change our name. We change our name to, for example, United Bank for Africa wasn't always United Bank for Africa. It happened after the merger when the CBN required a certain capitalization mark and some banks were not able to meet it. It forced a lot of banks to merge. So they come together, pull their resources together, put their equity together and say, hey, we need to become bigger in order to survive. Usually marked and motivated by survival. Perhaps one company isn't doing so well, but the other company isn't doing so well. Like, okay, if we put our resources together, we can do well. So that is a merger, it's like a marriage. Two people coming together, becoming one, literally, is what a merger is. And in the case of Access Bank and Diamond Bank, although Access Bank didn't change the name, but if you see the Access Bank logo, it has that diamond this thing with the Access Bank, whatever. So it's kind of like the trademark kind of had that effect. And then when we talk about acquisition, this involves a company taking in another company, acquiring, it's in the name, acquiring another company in itself. So two things can happen at that point. If a company decides, I want to acquire this other company, if Access Bank decides it wants to acquire, let's say, Polaris Bank tomorrow, it's not a merger. It's Access Bank swallowing up and taking total control of Polaris. It's taking total control, absolute control. It's taking all the, so it's not going to be an equal footing of relationship. The shareholders will not become co-shareholders. You understand? So in that case, Access Bank would usually have majority shares of Polaris. This is an example. Would have majority shares of Polaris and control whatever Polaris does. So Polaris becomes a subsidiary to Access. So it happens a lot with other companies as well. Or that's if they decide that if they even want to keep Polaris as a subsidiary, that's just also another thing. Another example of an acquisition is Olam Flour Mills and Dangote Flour. Olam Flour Mills, Dangote Flour. Olam Flour Mills completely bought out Dangote Flour, and Dangote Flour ceased to exist, if I'm correct. So they can decide, okay, we can acquire you but keep you as subordinate, or can acquire you and completely erase every trace of your existence and just absorb your assets. So they can absorb the buildings that the lower company has, or absorb all the assets and all the shares and everything, and completely eliminate them. If let's say Facebook wanted to acquire Twitter, for example, they may decide to, instead of, they wouldn't completely eliminate X. Now it's X. They wouldn't completely eliminate X. They will probably just keep X as part of the Meta family, just like the way Instagram is, the way WhatsApp is, the way Facebook is. So those three will now be part of those four. If X is included, will be part of the main company, which is Meta. So yeah, it's a lot of nuances. I hope we're following, but it's a lot of technical stuff. I'm trying to make it as simple as possible.
Yeah.
So in the case of Netflix and Warner Brothers, Netflix is acquiring Warner Brothers, which is actually quite impressive, considering that Netflix is one of the younger companies in the music industry, like the youngest studios, like if not the youngest in the in the movie industry, maybe not the youngest, but quite young. I mean, Warner Brothers, if I'm not correct, Warner Brothers, Disney, Paramount are about over 100 years old. Those are legacy companies. They are over 100 years old. Netflix, I don't think Netflix is. I don't think Netflix is up to 40. I'm not sure. I don't think Netflix is up to 40. But that's how crazy it is. And this, how did they start? How did they start off? They started off by renting movies. They were a renter. They were a renter. They were not a studio. Instead of as a studio, they were a renter. They were renting out
A,
movies. Hey, do you
a
want movies?
parallel a parallel of that is what we have in like in Nigeria while growing up.
Yeah,
Go
yeah,
and
exactly. Those guys
rent.
that rent, those guys that rent movies in your area where your auntie will ask you to go and rent one Yoruba film like that so you can watch. And when you are done watching, you return it back. That was what they were doing, right? And over time, they decided, okay, they had the streaming platform and they decided to start investing in making their own movies of Netflix originals and just like that. And they grew. And it's quite impressive that they are able to grow this much, have a market cap of this much, and then having the ability to absorb one of the biggest companies in the industry. And I mean, it's raised a lot of flags. The government, the Justice Department, there's something called the antitrust laws in the US, which prevents unfair competitive practices or monopolies. So there is this fear and apprehension that if Netflix acquires Warner Brothers, it's going to have a kind of monopoly on the industry. But then Netflix isn't the one eyeing Warner Brothers. Paramount is also doing that. And Paramount also wanted Paramount even offered higher than Netflix did. They offered about 107 billion. Netflix offered about 80 something billion. But Warner Bros. Is still decided they want to go with Netflix. And Paramount is getting mad, like we offered you more. But Warner Bros. Is saying Netflix fits our vision of what we have for the future more. So I mean, it's a lot of things in that department, but I think it's safe to say that Warner Brothers has decided to settle and go with Netflix. So every other thing that happens is just really going to be governmental approval and everything like that. And so that's basically how it is so far.
Yeah, thank you very much for that breakdown. I was trying to also check on what acquisition is. I know, but I was trying to see how it can be broken down into the simplest form. So I put the prompt on an LLM, uh, and it gives me that the simple term an acquisition is when a company buys another company. The buying company takes control usually by purchasing most or all of the other company's shares or assets. After that, the acquired company may stop operating independently, be absorbed into the buyer business, or continue to exist but under buyer's control. You've broken it down already, right? You've already established, that fact. Which would drive me to the next questions, right? Who wins here? I mean, let's ask a very direct question about this conversation. Who wins here? Is it the consumer, the creators, the corporation? What are the biggest winner? You know,
I think it will depend. I mean, there can be wins and there can be losses depending on. I think the people with the biggest risk. Let's start with that. Is the buyer. In this case, Netflix. If they decide to go in deal, they have the biggest risk, right? And they also have the biggest reward if it falls through. They have the biggest reward if it falls through, and they have the biggest risk. But a lot of people have their opinions on whether this is a good deal or not. For example, Netflix is mainly a streaming platform, right? They rarely put their movies out in theaters. And people are like, especially people who are more of the actual real cinephiles are like, movies are not movies or what to be called movies if they're not in theaters. And so some academic circles like the Oscars would not even consider your movie if it is not in theaters, if you don't release it in cinemas, right? So sometimes what Netflix does is to allow some of these movies a theatrical release before putting it on streaming platforms. But they have very short runtime. If I remember, Frankenstein probably had like maybe a week or two runtime in selected theaters, and then it was released on Netflix. So people are like,
what is the essence of a movie if it's not released on in theaters? What's the essence of just putting it on streaming platforms? Some directors even hate the whole idea of a movie being on streaming platforms and not in theaters, perhaps because they believe it makes more, or that the first ever movies made in history were released in theaters. TVs did not even exist. So it's kind of like an homage to theaters that let this thing be released in theaters. Why are you changing? But the truth of the world, the truth of the matter is that the world is changing. The world is moving. Things are different. You cannot always maybe grasp onto the old ways. I get that cinemas or releasing a movie in cinema or watching it there is an experience, right? But we cannot wholly rely on that. Take, for example, what brought Netflix into the limelight, which I believe was the COVID pandemic. Everywhere was shut down. No one could go out. No one could go anywhere. In fact, Hollywood was crippled. A lot of people that had movies released during that time lost a lot of money in theaters. Who were the people that performed well? Who were the people that survived? Netflix. Everybody watched Netflix from their home, from the safety and comfort of their homes. That was what brought Netflix into the line. That was what made them relevant. Where every other studio was licking their wounds on the COVID pandemic, people could not go to watch movies. Netflix was unaffected. And let's be honest, if something resembling the COVID pandemic is going to happen again, it's going to affect cinemas and theaters as well. So what are we even saying here, right? So in the case of Netflix, Netflix was there for the people at home. Everybody was watching. They were releasing nice movies during that period as well. Everybody was watching them. Everybody was having a nice time. That was what saved a lot of people from insanity. To be able to sit down in your home and watch movies, right? And watch them all hours of the day. And what the crazy thing is that currently, I'll still go to address. Currently, if you to watch one movie costs a lot more than to subscribe for Netflix for a month to have an unlimited access to a lot of content, right? So, so tell me, I mean, in an economic sense, tell me why I need to go and I mean use Nigeria for example. The average movie in theaters in Nigeria is like 8,000, right? Tell me why I should go and spend 8,000 in cinema for one movie, which I watch in public, which I cannot rewind, which I cannot forward, which I cannot pause if I want to ease myself, which I cannot afford to get distracted if not I'm going to miss a very important part, which I have to get there on time because if I don't get there on time to start before without me, then having Netflix subscription where I can have the cinematic experience in my house at my own convenience within my control. Although there are still other cons to Netflix and all because Warner Bros. And some of these companies releases their movies in for Blu-ray, CDs, and everything, which kind of gives you this ownership. And the issue with Netflix is that if they decide to remove a movie from their roster or from their portfolio, it's gone forever and you can't have it. So there are pros and cons, right? But these are some of the things that affect the consumers. Netflix may win in regards to the merger or the regards to the bid, but they are going to do what is always in the best interest of the company, which is to make money. And that if that means sacrificing art, I'm sure they will do it. Although they already said when they acquire Netflix, Warner Brothers, then there will only be theatrical releases for movies for 17 days or was it for 12 days in theaters. So they're not exactly eradicating it, but I mean, I'm sure that will prevent a lot of directors from working with them. The likes of Christopher Nolan and James Cameron are strongly against streaming platforms. They prefer theatrical releases. But that's the thing again, they're not being honest about the conversation. It wasn't until after COVID that Netflix started having competition. That was when they all realized that, oh wow, these guys actually survived COVID without releasing anything in theaters and it did well for them. And back then only Netflix was the one streaming and they all had to send their movies to Netflix. I remember Marvel had some series in Netflix. A lot of all these series were in Netflix, so they had to now start recalling. They had to start creating their own streaming platforms. Disney created Disney Plus, Paramount created Paramount Plus, Warner Brothers had HBO Max, Peacock came up, Hulu. I think Hulu had been around for a while, but of course was not as big as Netflix. Hulu was around. Disney acquired Hulu that time, and then all of a sudden they had to now start extracting their movies that were on Netflix to put on their own streaming platforms. So it became a big deal. They had that realization that okay, we actually have to get with the times, and COVID was a very good example of that. So if you think about it, cinema, the death of cinema was inevitable, and the consumers are also crying for something different. So in this case, I believe it could be a win for the company and also a win slash loss for the consumers. Because some of them will be unsatisfied, some of them like me, I'll be satisfied because I cannot. There are some days where I plan to go to the cinema this week, this December, but I couldn't just find the time. I was still busy even as at the 24th, and then shortly after that Christmas I had to travel again. So where was the time actually? So I mean, I want to watch this thing on my phone, and some of the series that came out, I was able to watch them on my phone on my Netflix. So I think it's fair to say that convenience has taken over. The internet has helped a lot.
Thank you very much. You left a very important part when you're even talking about the disadvantage of cinemas. I think for you, one of the disadvantages that you're not able to um, eat your food while watching a movie or something.
Yes,
Because,
yes, yes.
because
It's a very, it's a very, very, it's a very, very serious thing.
maybe it's only popcorn. Maybe it's only like popcorn you can take. Which
It
I
is,
mean is
we're
boring.
not, yeah, it
I
is
want to eat
boring.
rice and
But
things. While your
yeah, I
TV is
mean,
on.
auntie pounded yam and egusi soup while I'm watching, because there's this like I noticed I noticed something, right? If I am watching a very good movie, or I know a movie is going to be good, and I take food that I enjoy and eat it while watching it, it creates a very, very firm neural handshake in my head, and I can remember the movie more because I have associated it with eating good food at that moment in time. So that's why a series like Friends appeals to me. How I Met Your Mother, because Friends kind of, when you eat, yeah, if you have not seen Friends, I recommend you see Friends. If you've seen Friends and you've not eaten while seeing Friends, I recommend you try that either, because it makes it even more memorable. So when it comes to Friends, I've got to find something to eat. Or if I want to eat and I'll watch Friends, it's perfect. So cinemas one is I provide that popcorn isn't food.
Probably what's if maybe when the day goes through, maybe what we'll do is that we'll invite a pro cinema person as a guest so that you guys can have like a back to back. But let's go to some another thing that is very you know Nigerian centric, right? Um so I read a study or a fact on Business Day newspaper. Uh so listen, is and it reads streaming platforms are widely used with 84.9% using Netflix, Showmax, and Amazon Prime. Netflix is the most popular platform used by 94.3% of the respondents. What? Out of the 84.9% of streaming user, out of that 84.9, 94% uses Netflix. Why 35.8% use Amazon Prime? The reason why I'm
Every
even reading the, the
every other person came late to the game. I think that's just the fact. Every other
yeah,
person came late to
yeah,
the game.
yeah. The reason why I'm even reading this is that even in Nigeria, right? Uh, movie releases have been democratized. In fact, in the last 3 years, we've seen more surge in movie releases on YouTube. You know, even as the way Netflix is relatively cheap according to what standard, right? It's not cheap for a lot of Nigerians. So, what is the cheapest you know, option for, let's say, Africans and Nigerians is YouTube.
Yeah,
The way
definitely.
the way these guys on YouTube release movies, what they do is that what they even do sometimes is that, oh, they some of the actors or actresses, right? They even appear in like two or three movies back to back in the same period of time. It's insane, And I'm just looking at, for us as lawyer, we're looking more at legal implication of some of these things. Are actors or actresses even treated fairly with their obligation? Why working on some of these movies? Uh, Synchronization rights for music artists in some of these movies. Licensing, for some of these movies, and other factors, right? This will draw me to my next question to you. What is the effect for us in Nigeria to all these things? You're mute though. Oh, you're
Can you
mute.
repeat the question?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
great.
With all this change, because in the last 3 years we've experienced changes too. Piracy has kind of, the traditional piracy, that's what I mean, of alabas has reduced. So what is the effect of streaming services and this change for the Nigeria ecosystem?
Okay. I think even before streaming services became a thing in Nigeria, and most people had to release their movies on CDs, piracy was is a big issue. And you know, even if you release your movie in cinemas, that does not stop Nigerians. They would still pirate it and put it in CDs and sell it to people. So I think YouTube has actually also been a game changer. Funny enough, I don't really watch a lot of YouTube movies. I know not a lot of people put their movies on YouTube, but I know also that YouTube also paid their creators quite well, which is now the incentive for releasing movies on YouTube. Monetizing your YouTube channel is usually a very good step, and the people make a lot of money on YouTube. I mean, someone I think was Pastor Jerry Eze said his YouTube this thing monetization was worth about how many million, or was it close to a billion? Like, people exaggerate these things, but it was a significant amount. So I
As
mean,
an
if people are
embassy,
releasing, yeah, the embassy didn't even monetize, and people were like calculating. I mean, he had about 1 million views at some point during the Hallelujah challenge, and people were like, if he had monetized this, he would have made a lot of money, right? So I think it's a good incentive on YouTube's part to release some of these movies, to allow people, you know, release movies on YouTube. And Nigerians liking free things, to me, also are not so wealthy like that. They prefer to watch it on YouTube, and I think it's a good thing. And I even saw one that surprised me the other day. Even the Oscars are going to be live streamed on YouTube in 2027. Was it 2029? I can't remember. 2027. So the Oscars have always been complaining about, oh, low viewership and all that. And then, well, they decided to finally take the hint of the word of the times. They put it on YouTube, and I'm sure if they
sorry, sorry, Isaac.
yeah, I'm sure if they put it on YouTube.
Yes.
See, did you say something?
Yeah, yes, I wanted to ask you, where do they actually like put it on before?
I think it's on cable. I think it's on one of
Cable
these cable
rights. Okay.
channels, so they do their this thing.
All right.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So now they want to put it on YouTube. And I'm sure they're going to see very, high viewership this time around because it's on YouTube. It's convenient. I mean, even some of these fights are on Netflix now. Like the Anthony Joshua Jake Paul fight was on Netflix. Right. So I mean, viewership is going to increase. Because I say some of these platforms are convenient and easier to use, and a lot of people have access to them. So I think if these guys are actually smart, they will find a way to get, because people don't want to be confined to a seat in front of their TVs anymore. People are on the move. People are moving around. Why should I be confined to it? So I can watch this thing on my phone, right? So people are getting with the times, and these guys are starting to understand that okay, yeah, we need to actually get with the times as well. And I think the same goes for the Nigerian audience too. Netflix understood this earlier when they broke into the Nigerian market. And one thing they did, I remember that time I was in uni, they once you register for Netflix, they had first month free. I think that was the same strategy Spotify used. You register for Netflix, you had first month free, and then subsequently you can be paying. And it wasn't even as expensive as now then. So I mean, people they got in a lot of customers, and from there it's streamrolled. I'm not sure about the Showmax. I think Showmax are starting to gain a bit of traction as well. Prime has also started to gain a bit of traction as well. But they all came late to the game, and Netflix has taken over the market, basically.
Well, thank you very much. I see that this is a conversation that you're very excited about. Well, unfortunately, we do. It's not a movie podcast. It's not a movie review podcast. But the reason why we're having this episode is that one, like we, it shows the range we have, especially when it deals with attending to legal matters. There are so many topics we're still going to talk about, right? But the most important thing is that everything's touched on legal policy making, changes happening in the world and things like that. So we'll still have more exciting episode like this. So just every week, just stay tuned. We'll keep dropping. We'll try our possible best to drop every week. So I think we'll wrap it up here, right, Isaac? Or is there anything you want to add? Yeah.
No, no, I think we can. I think we can. We're already taking a significant period of
Yeah.
much of your time, and so
Yeah.
I mean, we'll probably have a part two of this
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
talk more on the nuances of the whole merger and acquisition. I mean, there are
Yeah.
bound to be more things to come, more news that will pop up, and then we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you very much once again. Please hit the subscribe button. Just hit the subscribe button. And if you're listening on Spotify, please do well to rate us. And we'll drop. We do drop our email address every week. You can send email to us there. If it's something we can read, we are going to read it on any episode we are releasing. So thank you again. Have a great week, a great weekend. See you next week. Thank you very much.